The Force binds all things across the galaxy, connecting every living being in an invisible web of energy and destiny. But what happens when something falls through? The void from beyond. Something that operates by entirely different rules, driven not by mystical energy, but by will. Forged in tragedy and honed through discipline, the Jedi would sense a disturbance. The Sith would sense opportunity. And Coruscant, jewel of the Republic, would learn that not all darkness comes from the dark side. The Batwing screamed through Coruscant's upper atmosphere, trailing plasma, fire, and sparking metal. Alarms shrieked in Bruce Wayne's cowl as the fighter craft, never designed for atmospheric re-entry, let alone dimensional rifts, shuddered violently. The experimental quantum drive had malfunctioned during pursuit of Scarecrow's smuggling operation, tearing reality open for 3 impossible seconds. Now the view screen showed not Gotham's polluted skyline, but endless cityscapes stretching to every horizon. Towers climbing kilometers into artificial daylight. Computer location analysis, Batman growled, fighting the controls as repulsor engines he didn't recognize streaked past, wedge-shaped fighters in formation, painted in red and white markings. Unknown, the AI responded flatly. Star patterns unrecognizable. Gravitational constants, anomalous. Atmospheric composition breathable. Recommendation, emergency landing protocol. Batman's jaw tightened. Unknown meant vulnerable. Vulnerable meant disadvantaged. And disadvantaged meant innocent people could die while he adapted. He'd learned that lesson in the League of Assassins, refined it in Gotham streets for 15 years. Now he was learning it again. The Batwings. Stealth systems flickered to life, technology beyond this. Galaxy's apparent capabilities, and Batman guided the craft toward the endless city below, between towers that dwarfed even Wayne. Tower. Emergency. Broadcasts flooded every frequency, languages his translator couldn't parse, until one channel resolved into accented basic, unidentified vessel. You are entering Coruscant restricted airspace. Transmit your clearance codes immediately or be fired upon by Republic Defense Forces. Republic Defense Forces. Coruscant. The words meant nothing, but the threat was universal. Batman killed the remaining engines, angling the Batwing into a controlled crash trajectory. He aimed for what appeared to be an industrial district, fewer civilians, more places to hide, time to assess before engagement. The craft clipped a landing platform, shearing off the left stabilizer, then skidded across permacrete, in a shower of sparks before, slamming into a warehouse wall. Silence. Then the hiss of hydraulics as the canopy opened. Batman emerged into humidity and the smell of ozone, alien spices, and recycled air. His cowl's sensors painted the environment in tactical overlay. No immediate threats. Structural damage contained. Ambient temperature 22 degrees standard. The warehouse was abandoned. Recent abandonment. Judging by the fresh graffiti in an alien script and discarded food containers. Still emitting heat signatures. Then he felt it. Not through the Force. Batman had no connection to that mystical energy, but through the instincts that had kept him alive. Against gods and monsters. The prickling awareness of being watched. 3 figures materialized from the shadows. Not metaphorically, they literally appeared as if conjured from darkness itself, wearing robes of tan and brown, geometric patterns glowing with faint bioluminescence. 2 carried cylindrical weapons on their belts. The third, a woman with orange skin and head tails, held her empty hands forward in what might have been a peaceful gesture. "We mean you no harm," she said in that same accented basic. "I am Jedi Master." Shock T. The Jedi Temple sensed something. A disturbance in the Force. And your craft's arrival confirmed it. You are clearly not of this galaxy. Batman's eyes narrowed behind the cowl's white lenses. Jedi. Temple. The Force. Context clues building a picture. Religious order, mystical powers. Positions of authority. His hand drifted toward his utility belt. "I wouldn't," said the male Jedi on the left, a human with a scarred face. "We've seen your technology. Impressive stealth capabilities. But you cannot hide from the Force." "The Force doesn't concern me," Batman replied, voice modulated to its gravelly intimidation pitch. "I'm not looking for trouble. My ship malfunctioned. I need time to repair it and leave." Shocked T.I.'s expression shifted. Surprise, perhaps respect. You speak with authority despite being outnumbered and in an unfamiliar place. That suggests either foolishness or exceptional capability. The Council will wish to speak with you. The Clone Wars rage across 1,000 systems. We cannot allow unknown variables to compromise Republic security. Clone Wars. Republic. More pieces falling into place. A civilization spanning multiple star systems. Engaged in massive conflict. Led by warriors who could sense something. Something Batman. Apparently disrupted simply by existing. I work alone, Batman said. And I don't answer to councils. The third Jedi, a Keldor wearing a breathing mask, ignited his weapon. A beam of blue plasma erupted from the cylinder, humming with contained energy. A lightsaber, Batman's tactical mind cataloged instantly. Superheated plasma contained in magnetic field. Temperature approximately 20,000 degrees. Capable of cutting through virtually any material. His armor wouldn't withstand a direct hit. You misunderstand, Shakti said, her tone hardening. This is not a request. You will come with us to the temple. The Council must determine whether you pose a threat to Coruscant and the Republic itself. Batman's mind raced through scenarios. 3 opponents with close-range energy weapons. Apparent mystical abilities, unknown capabilities. Damaged ship requiring hours of repair. No knowledge of local geography, politics, or resources. Fighting now gained nothing. Compliance bought time for intelligence gathering, escape planning, and understanding this galaxy's power structures. If you want to see more characters, enter the Star Wars galaxy. Hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character you'd want to see in the comments below. May the Force be with you. Lead the way, Batman said finally. But as they escorted him from the warehouse toward a waiting gunship, sleek, efficient, military design, Batman memorized every turn, every landmark, every tactical advantage. Because Bruce Wayne had learned one fundamental truth in his crusade against crime. Information was the only real power. And in this strange galaxy of mystical warriors and galactic wars, he would need every advantage his detective's mind could gather. The Jedi Temple rose in the distance, massive and ancient, dominating Coruscant's skyline. Batman studied it with cold calculation. Temples meant secrets. Councils meant politics. And politics meant corruption. Gotham had taught him well. The Jedi Temple's interrogation chamber was designed for serenity, soft lighting, minimalist architecture, the faint hum of meditation chambers beyond the walls. Batman recognized it immediately as psychological manipulation. Create calm to lower defenses, strip away aggression. Make subjects compliant through enforced peace. He'd used similar techniques in the Batcave. The difference was he admitted what he was doing. 12 figures sat in a semicircle elevated above him. The Jedi Council. Batman's cowl had already cataloged each member. Species, apparent age, body language, positioning. The small green alien in the center, Yoda, based on the deference others showed, radiated ancient authority. Beside him sat a dark-skinned human male with calculating eyes. Mace Windu, whose hand never strayed far from his lightsaber. Others watched with varying degrees of curiosity, suspicion, and what might have been concern. Your name, we would know, Yoda said, his syntax unusual but comprehensible. Batman. Your true name, Mace Windu pressed. The Force reveals much, but you are difficult to read. As if you exist in a shadow we cannot penetrate. Good. Batman had suspected his lack of Force sensitivity might offer advantages. Batman is all you need. A Keldor Council member, PLO Kuhn, leaned forward. Your vessel's technology is unlike anything in Republic databases. No hyperdrive signature, yet you appeared in our system. Stealth capabilities that evaded our sensors until atmospheric entry. Weapons systems of unknown configuration. He paused. You are either a separatist agent with access to revolutionary technology, or something far stranger. I'm not with your separatists, Batman said. My ship malfunctioned. I'm not from this galaxy. The chamber fell silent. Several council members exchanged glances, communicating through their Force connection, Batman deduced. He'd encountered telepaths before. Justice League had taught him mental discipline, compartmentalization techniques that kept his mind fortress strong. Dimensional travel, theoretically possible it is, Yoda mused. But witnessed, never have we. Proof, you must provide. Batman reached slowly toward his utility belt. 3 Jedi hands moved to lightsabers. He froze. My equipment. I can demonstrate technological principles that don't exist in your galaxy. Mace Windu nodded curtly. Batman withdrew a batarang. Compact, aerodynamic. Waited for perfect throwing balance. He held it up for examination. Metallic composition. Analysis will show alloys that don't match your periodic table. The polymer coating uses molecular bonding techniques your scientists haven't discovered. My suit's fiber weave. He gestured to his cape. Responds to electrical impulses. Can become rigid for gliding or soft for stealth. All without any of your force abilities. A Togruta master, Shak Ti, spoke from her position. Yet you move with extraordinary precision. Your awareness in the warehouse, you sensed our presence without force sensitivity. And your combat stance suggests master-level training. I'm human, Batman said flatly. Peak physical condition through discipline and training. No mystical powers. Just will. Will alone achieves much. A female Jedi with a gentle voice, Depa Balaba, observed. But will without guidance can lead to darkness. Why do you wear the symbol of a creature associated with night and fear? Batman's jaw tightened beneath the cowl. This was the question that always came. I use fear as a tool. Criminals are superstitious and cowardly. The symbol makes me more than a man. It makes me an idea. And ideas are bulletproof. Fear leads to anger, Yoda said softly. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. The path to the dark side, this is. I've met your kind before, Batman replied, voice cold. Self-righteous warriors who think meditation and philosophy solve everything. Who sit in towers while the streets below drown in corruption. I don't use fear for pleasure. I use it because it works. Because it saves lives. Mace Windu's expression hardened. You know nothing of the Jedi. Order. We have maintained peace for 1,000 generations. Then why are you at war? The words hung in the chamber like a detonation. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. Batman pressed his advantage, detective instincts reading the room's dynamics. You claim to be peacekeepers, but you're serving as generals in a galactic conflict. You carry weapons designed to kill. You lead armies of soldiers, clones. I've gathered from your broadcasts, who had no choice in their creation or their purpose. That's not peace. That's institutionalized violence with a philosophical veneer. The clone wars were forced upon us, Shak Ti said, controlled anger in her voice. The separatists attacked the Republic. We defend. Someone always attacks first, Batman interrupted. Someone always has justification. But examine your position objectively. A religious order with mystical powers, holding positions of military and political authority, conscripting manufactured soldiers to fight a war across thousands of systems. From an outside perspective, you're not the obvious heroes of this story. Yoda's ears lowered slightly, a tell Batman cataloged. The ancient Jedi was disturbed by the assessment. Good. Truth was a weapon, sharper than any batarang. Your cynicism is noted, Mace Windu said icily. But it changes nothing. You are an unknown variable in a galaxy at war. We cannot simply allow you to roam Coruscant freely while you repair your ship. The Council must determine whether you pose a threat. I pose a threat to criminals and those who prey on the innocent, Batman said. If your republic is truly just, we have no conflict. And if we determine you are a threat? Plo Koon asked. Batman's white lenses fixed on the Kel Door Master. Then you'll try to stop me. And you'll learn that the Force isn't the only form of power in this universe. The tension in the chamber reached critical mass. Batman felt it. That moment before violence erupts, the hell breath before the storm. His muscles coiled, calculating trajectories, exit vectors. Which council members would attack first based on positioning and temperament. Then Yoda spoke. Ancient wisdom cutting through the hostility. Test him. We should. Not with combat, with purpose. Prove yourself through action, Batman. A mission we will give you. If completed with honor, trust you we may begin to. If failed, or if darkness we sense. The small master's eyes gleamed with barely contained power. Then reconsider, we will. Mace Windu looked ready to object, but Yoda's decision held weight beyond rank. The council master continued. Coruscant's lower levels. Festering with crime they are. Beyond even Jedi resources to fully patrol. Your methods, effective they might be in such shadows. A test of your character, this will provide. Batman considered. They were offering him exactly what he needed: freedom to operate. Time to understand this galaxy. Access to Coruscant's criminal underworld where real intelligence always flowed. The Jedi thought they were testing him. They didn't realize he was testing them. I'll need access to my ship's equipment, Batman said, and information about these lower levels. Criminal organizations, power structures, recent activity. Provided, these will be, Yoda agreed. But watched, you will be. Closely. Batman stood, cape settling around his armored frame. I've been watched by the best intelligence agencies in my world. They never caught me either. As Jedi escorts, Shaak Ti and a younger human. Jedi who introduced himself as Anakin Skywalker, led him from the council chamber. Batman's mind was already working. Lower levels. Criminal networks. Information pathways that bypassed official channels. This was familiar territory, even in an alien galaxy. Gotham had prepared him for Coruscant's darkness. The question was whether Coruscant was prepared for his. Level 1313 existed 5,000 levels below the gleaming Senate towers and Jedi temple spires that tourists associated with Coruscant. Down here, sunlight was a myth, replaced by flickering neon, advertisements in a dozen alien languages, and the sodium glow of ancient illumination grids. The air tasted of recycled moisture, industrial runoff, and desperation. Batman breathed it in and felt almost at home. This is madness, Anakin Skywalker said for the third time. His youthful features creased with concern. The Jedi Knight, barely 23 standard years. Batman had calculated, walked with the casual confidence of someone who'd never truly known powerlessness. The Council wants you observed, not thrown into the deep levels alone. These sectors are controlled by the Hutt Cartel, Black Sun, and a dozen smaller syndicates. Even Jedi don't patrol down here without backup. Batman crouched on the edge of a ventilation shaft, studying the street below through his cowl's enhanced optics. Thermal imaging painted the scene in reds and blues. Gamorrean enforcers shaking down a Rodian merchant. Twi'lek dancers being herded into an establishment marked with Huttese script. A group of humans, clone deserters, based on their identical builds and haunted expressions, huddled in an alley trading Republic credits for death sticks. That's why crime thrives, Batman said quietly. You don't go where you're needed most. We're fighting a war across the galaxy, Anakin protested. The Jedi can't be everywhere. Then you've already lost. Batman activated his grapnel gun, technology that seemed to fascinate the young Jedi, and dropped silently into the shadows below. Anakin followed with a force-assisted leap, landing with far less subtlety. Batman had spent the past 3 days studying Coruscant's underbelly through observation and carefully cultivated contacts. The galaxy's criminal ecosystem operated on familiar principles: territory, profit, fear, and the occasional need for something resembling justice when it served organizational interests. The Hutt cartel controlled most vice operations. Black Sun handled high-level smuggling and political corruption. The Pike Syndicate ran spice distribution. And beneath them all, thousands of small-time operators struggled for scraps. But Batman hadn't come for small-time operators. His investigation had uncovered something the Jedi either didn't know or chose to ignore. Weapons-grade explosives were moving through Level 1313 in massive quantities. Not the crude chemical devices local gangs used for intimidation, but sophisticated thermal detonators and baradium charges, military hardware. Someone was stockpiling enough ordnance to level entire city sectors. The trail led to a warehouse complex in the Usker district, a region even Coruscant security force had written off as ungovernable. Batman moved through the shadows like liquid darkness, his cape's advanced fibers absorbing light and sound. Anakin followed, trying to match the vigilante's stealth with mixed success. You move like a Jedi, Anakin whispered, but without the Force to guide you. How? Training, observation, understanding that every environment has a rhythm. Batman paused at a corner, scanning the warehouse entrance. For guards, Trandoshan mercenaries carrying blaster rifles, thermal detonators on their belts. Positioning that suggested military discipline. Your force makes you predictable. You rely on mystical senses instead of tactical analysis. The Force has guided the Jedi for millennia. Batman held up a hand for silence. His audio sensors had detected something, a conversation in Huttese, translated in real time by his Cowl's computer. Two voices, one belonging to the Trandoshan commander, the other. Payment arrives tomorrow, the second. Voice said in heavily accented. Basic. Dooku promises the charges will devastate the Senate district. The Republic will learn the price of ignoring the Outer Rim. Dooku. Batman filed the name instantly. Anakin's reaction, a sharp intake of breath. Hand moving to his lightsaber, confirmed its significance. Count Dooku, Anakin hissed. Leader of the Separatist Alliance. Former Jedi Master who fell to the dark side. If he's involved, then this is bigger than local crime, Batman finished. He activated his Cowl's recording system, capturing every word. This is terrorism disguised as gang activity. Classic insurgency tactics. Use criminal networks to avoid military detection. Strike civilian targets to create fear and undermine government legitimacy. The second voice continued. The Batman creature. The Jedi are parading through. The lower levels. Is he a threat? Batman tensed. They knew about him. 3 days, and he was already on enemy intelligence reports. The Trandoshan commander laughed, a hissing sound. One human without the Force? The Count has faced Jedi Masters and survived. This Batman is nothing. Arrogance, Batman murmured. Exploitable. He moved before Anakin could object, smoke pellet deployed mid-stride. The Trandoshans opened fire immediately, blaster. Bolts that his armor's ablative plating. Deflected in showers of sparks. Not invulnerable, Batman noted, but sufficient for brief exposure. He rolled beneath the weapon's fire. Batarang finding the commander's weapon, the specialized electronics device, attached to it sending an electromagnetic pulse through the rifle's power cell. The weapon exploded in the Trandoshan's hands. Batman was already moving. Combat techniques refined through decades of training adapted instantly to alien physiology. Trandoshans were stronger than humans, but their enhanced sense made them vulnerable to sensory attacks. Sonic Batarang deployed at close range. The alien mercenaries clutched their heads, disoriented. Anakin ignited his lightsaber, the blue blade humming to life. I'll handle. Stay back, Batman ordered. I need them conscious for interrogation. The young Jedi hesitated. And in that hesitation, Batman saw a crucial difference between their methods. Jedi fought with overwhelming power, their Force abilities making conventional tactics unnecessary. They didn't interrogate, they sensed intentions through mystical means. But Batman had learned in Gotham that fear extracted truth more effectively than any telepathy. He disabled the remaining guards with precise strikes, nerve clusters, identified through his Cowl's anatomical database, pressure points that worked across species. Within 90 seconds, all 4 Trandoshans lay groaning on the permacrete. Batman grabbed the commander, slamming him against the warehouse wall. The explosives? Where are they stored? Who's your contact with Dooku? I'll tell you nothing, mammal. Batman's voice dropped to its lowest register, processed through the Cowl's intimidation, filters into something that bypassed conscious thought and triggered primal fear. Responses. I've broken stronger creatures than you. Your choice. Talk now, or I find more creative interrogation methods. And I promise you, the Jedi aren't watching anymore. It was a bluff. Anakin stood 3 meters away, clearly uncomfortable with the display but not intervening. But the Trandoshan didn't know Jedi philosophy, didn't understand their restrictions. He only knew darkness had manifested in physical form, and darkness was asking questions. Sublevel 90. The mercenary gasped. Warehouse district. Grid coordinates 7743 to 22. The detonators arrive via smuggler. Freighters registered to Zygerian slavers. Contact is a human. Calls himself the broker. Never seen his face. Dooku pays through untraceable Republic credits. Batman released him, already moving toward the warehouse entrance. Anakin followed, his expression troubled. That was effective, the Jedi admitted reluctantly. But the darkness in your methods saved lives? Batman interrupted. He accessed the warehouse's security system, primitive, compared to Gotham standards, and bypassed it within seconds. The door slid open, revealing rows of unmarked crates. Your philosophy is a luxury. Down here, people don't have time for meditation and moral debate. They need someone willing to do what's necessary. Inside, The crates confirmed Batman's worst analysis. Thermal detonators, baradium charges, even a separatist-manufactured plasma warhead. Enough explosive power to kill millions. We need to report this to the Council immediately, Anakin said, already reaching for his comlink. Batman's hand shot out, stopping him. No, not yet. What? What? Because this is the distribution point, not the source. Whoever this broker is, he's connected to Separatist intelligence and Coruscant's criminal infrastructure. Report this now, and they'll disappear into the lower levels. We need to follow the chain up to its source. Anakin's blue eyes narrowed. You want to use this as bait. Risk millions of lives to catch one terrorist. I want to eliminate the entire network, Batman corrected. Your Jedi approach, reactive, defensive, playing by rules. Your enemies ignore. It's why this war has dragged on for 3 years. Sometimes you need to think like a criminal to catch them. The young Jedi was silent for a long moment, clearly wrestling with the logic. Finally, the Council won't approve this. Then don't tell them. Yet. It was a test, Batman realized, pushing Anakin to see how far the Jedi's principles could bend, how much pragmatism existed beneath the philosophy. The young man's internal conflict played across his face, duty versus results, rules versus necessity. 1 week, Anakin said finally. We track this broker, identify the network, then report everything. But if civilians are endangered, I don't let innocents die, Batman said flatly. That's my only rule. As they exited the warehouse into level 1313's perpetual artificial night, Batman's mind was already analyzing the next steps. The broker, separatist connections, Dooku's involvement. This wasn't just terrorism. It was a calculated strike meant to cripple Republic morale and demonstrate separatist reach into the capital itself. But the Dark Knight had faced the League of Shadows. The Court of Owls, Ra's al Ghul's millennia-old conspiracy. He'd dismantled criminal empires built on fear and corruption. Coruscant's underworld was about to learn what Gotham already knew. Shadows were his domain. And in the darkness, the Batman was inevitable. The broker's identity unraveled through methods the Jedi would never employ. Batman spent 6 days infiltrating Coruscant's information networks, slicing into Black Sun communication channels, interrogating mid-level smugglers, with enough fear to loosen tongues, but not enough to trigger panic, planting surveillance devices in cantinas where criminals gathered to trade secrets. Alongside contraband, Anakin accompanied him through most of it, his discomfort with the tactics growing proportionally to their effectiveness. You're torturing them, the young Jedi said, after Batman left Aduro's arms. Dealer hanging upside down from a level 1260 transit station, the alien babbling coordinates through tears of terror. I'm scaring them, Batman corrected, retracting his grapnel line. There's a difference. No permanent harm, no physical damage. Just the understanding that their activities have consequences. The Council would call this falling to darkness. Your council sits in a temple while people suffer. Batman's voice carried an edge honed through years of arguing with Superman, Wonder Woman, and every other hero who questioned his methods. I've watched your Jedi for a week now. You sense suffering through the Force. You meditate on proper responses. You debate philosophy while criminals exploit the bureaucratic gaps. By the time you act, victims are already dead. Anakin's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue further. Batman had noticed the young Jedi's own frustrations with Jedi orthodoxy, the way he bristled at Master Windu's rigid pronouncements, how his attachment to Senator Amidala, a relationship he thought secret but which Batman had deduced within hours, violated order policy. Anakin Skywalker was a Jedi pulled between duty and passion, rules and results. Dangerous and exploitable. Batman filed that assessment for later consideration. The broker's identity finally emerged from a captured data chip recovered from a Pike Syndicate courier, Tannen Praji, a human aristocrat from one of Coruscant's oldest families, with connections to both Republic Senate and Separatist sympathizers. He operated from the upper levels, a penthouse, in the Uskru Entertainment district where legitimate business fronted for weapons, trafficking, and terrorist coordination. We should inform the Council now, Anakin insisted as they perched on a rooftop across from Praji's tower. This is beyond our jurisdiction. If Praji has Senate connections, then the Jedi will arrest him. He'll hire expensive lawyers. And his network will scatter before anyone talks. Batman interrupted. He studied the tower's security through electrobinoculars, guard rotations, sensor grids, reinforced windows. I've seen this pattern before. Wealthy criminals who believe their connections make them untouchable. They always have the same weakness, which is arrogance. Batman activated his comlink, a device he'd modified to interface with this galaxy's communication systems. And arrogance creates vulnerabilities. What Anakin didn't know, what the Jedi couldn't know, was that Batman had already infiltrated Praji's tower 3 nights ago, had planted listening devices in every room, sliced his private computer network, studied his routines and psychology. The industrialist kept meticulous records, convinced his encryption was unbreakable. He'd never encountered a detective who considered digital forensics as fundamental as hand-to-hand combat. Batman had every transaction, every communication, every piece of evidence needed to dismantle Praji's entire operation. But evidence alone wasn't sufficient. He needed something the Jedi's mystical senses couldn't provide, a confession that revealed the full scope of separatist infiltration into Coruscant's upper society. "I'm going in," Batman said. "Alone? Absolutely not. If you're captured, I won't be." Batman fired his grapnel, the line catching Praji's tower with a magnetic clamp. "Give me 1 hour. If I don't signal, then contact your council." He swung across the gap before Anakin could protest further, disappearing into shadows that shouldn't have existed on a building facade, covered with illumination. But Batman had studied the tower's lighting patterns, knew precisely which angles created blind spots in both security, sensors, and organic vision. The penthouse window opened to his molecular destabilizer technology. This galaxy wouldn't develop for centuries. Batman slipped inside, immediately cataloging the environment, luxury furnishings, Alderanian art, a bar stocked with wines from a dozen systems, and sitting at a desk reviewing holographic reports, Tannen Praji himself. The aristocrat looked up, hand reaching for a blaster, then froze. Batman stood in the center of the room as if he'd materialized from nothing. Capes spread like wings, white lenses reflecting the hologram's blue glow. "Security," Praji shouted. "Your security is unconscious," Batman said, voice processed to its most intimidating register. "We need to talk about your weapons shipments, about the thermal detonators, about Count Dooku." Praji's hand trembled on the blaster. "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a legitimate businessman." Batman moved, not the way Jedi moved, with force-enhanced speed that left shimmer trails. He moved with pure human efficiency, every motion economy perfected through 10,000 hours of training. The blaster clattered away. Praji found himself pressed against the floor, Batman's armored knee on his spine. "Let's try again," Batman said. "I know about the Zygerian smugglers, the warehouse on sublevel 90, the broker identity. I have records of every transaction you've made for the past 8 months. What I don't have is why. Why would a wealthy Republic aristocrat betray his own people?" "You don't understand," Praji gasped. "The Republic is corrupt, dying. The Jedi have too much power. Dooku offers order, efficiency. Dooku offers tyranny wearing a philosophical mask." Batman increased the pressure slightly. "I've seen his type before. Charismatic leaders who promise order through strength, who exploit legitimate grievances to justify atrocities. They always end the same way, with mass graves and societies built on fear. Better than the Republic's stagnation." The penthouse door exploded inward, not opened, destroyed, blown apart by an invisible force push. Count Dooku strode through the wreckage, elegant and terrible in his dark cloak, lightsaber ignited and glowing crimson. Behind him came 2 Magna Guards, their electro-staffs humming with deadly energy. "How perceptive," Dooku said, his cultured voice carrying aristocratic disdain. "The mysterious Batman. My intelligence reports suggested you were merely a costumed vigilante, but I see now you're something more intriguing." Batman released Praji and faced the Sith Lord, mind racing through tactical assessments. Lightsaber, superior reach and cutting power. Force abilities, telekinesis, precognition, enhanced speed. Magna Guards, combat droids programmed with countless martial arts forms. Environmental factors, limited space, civilian below, no backup. Conclusion: direct confrontation would be fatal. Count Dooku, Batman said evenly, showing no fear. I've heard about you. Former Jedi Master who abandoned your order's principles. Now you lead a separatist movement built on corporate greed and manufactured grievances. Dooku's expression flickered, surprise at Batman's lack of intimidation. You speak boldly for someone who possesses no connection to the Force. I sense nothing from you, as if you're a void in the fabric of reality itself. He circled slowly, lightsaber held in a duelist's grip. Tell me, Batman, what drives a man to wage war on darkness without the light side to guide him, without the Force to grant power? Will, Batman replied. And the understanding that power without accountability becomes tyranny, something you learned and chose to embrace. Accountability? Dooku laughed, a cold sound. The Jedi preach accountability while serving a corrupt republic. They've become enforcers for politicians who care nothing for the outer systems, who allow slavery and suffering while Coruscant grows fat on exploitation. I sought to reform them. When they refused, I found alternative methods. You found the dark side, Batman said. Found power that corrupts absolutely. I've met your kind in my world, Ra's al Ghul, who wanted to destroy cities to save civilization. He believed his philosophy justified any atrocity too. Dooku's eyes narrowed. And what happened to this Ra's al Ghul? I stopped him, multiple times, because I learned something he never understood. You can't build a better world on a foundation of corpses. The Sith Lord's lightsaber lowered slightly. Genuine curiosity replacing hostility. Fascinating. A warrior philosopher who operates without mystical power, yet stands before a Sith Lord without fear. The Jedi Council believes you're a potential threat. I wonder if you might instead be an opportunity. I don't work for terrorists. Terrorist is a word the powerful use to delegitimize resistance. Dooku countered. The Jedi call me a Sith, but I see myself as a realist. The galaxy requires strong leadership, not democratic paralysis. Join me, Batman. Your methods, your understanding of fear and justice, applied with separatist resources. You could reshape worlds. Together, we could create true order. It was tempting, Batman acknowledged internally. Not the philosophy. He'd rejected authoritarianism 1,000 times. But the resources, the ability to operate on a galactic scale, to implement systems that prevented crime rather than merely reacting to it. With separatist technology and networks, he could. No, Batman crushed the thought immediately. That path led to the same destination every time, believing the ends justified any means, that his judgment was infallible, that control equaled justice. He'd come close to that edge before, had seen Superman cross it in alternate timelines. The Dark Knight's greatest strength was knowing his limitations. Your offer is transparent, Batman said. You don't want a partner. You want a weapon. Someone to do the dark work while you maintain philosophical distance. I've been used before, Dooku. Never again. The Sith Lord's expression hardened. Then you are simply an obstacle to be removed. He raised his hand and Batman felt it. Not through the Force, but through the sudden displacement of air. The electromagnetic. Warning his cowl sensors. Detected microseconds before the telekinetic attack. He dove sideways as furniture exploded. Rolled beneath the Force push. Smoke pellets deployed to obscure Dooku's line of sight. The Magna Guards moved with mechanical precision, electrostaff swinging. Batman's armor absorbed the first strike, designed to ground electrical attacks, but the impact sent him staggering. He countered with explosive gel planted during the roll, detonation separating him from the droids. You cannot win, Dooku called through the smoke. I have faced Jedi Masters, defeated multiple opponents simultaneously. What can one human without the Force possibly accomplish? Batman's answer came in the form of a batarang, not thrown at Dooku, but at the penthouse's main power conduit. Darkness flooded the room as primary systems failed. His cowl's night vision activated immediately, painting the scene in green monochrome. Dooku ignited his lightsaber, the red blade providing illumination. Clever, but insufficient. Batman fired his grapnel upward, crashing through the penthouse's ceiling viewport. Glass exploded outward as he swung into Coruscant's night sky. Dooku's Force lightning crackling past him, close enough to feel the ionization, far enough to survive. He'd learned what he needed. Dooku was directly involved. The Separatist threat was real, and the Count's interest in recruiting him suggested. The Sith Lord saw potential advantages in non-Force operatives. As Batman disappeared into the cityscape, Anakin's voice crackled over the comlink. What happened? I felt a disturbance. Get to the temple, Batman said. Tell the Council everything. Dooku was here. The terrorist plot is confirmed. Where are you going? Batman looked toward the Jedi Temple, its towers gleaming with emergency lights as Republic forces mobilized. Then he looked down, toward the lower levels where Praji's network still operated, where the real weapons cache waited to be seized. To finish this, he said. My way. The Jedi Council's response was predictably bureaucratic. They convened emergency sessions, debated jurisdiction with the Senate, filed reports with Republic intelligence, and deployed strike teams to secure Praji's known holdings, all of which gave the aristocrats' network 72 hours to scatter, destroy evidence, and activate contingency protocols. Batman watched it unfold. From the shadows with grim familiarity, he'd seen the same pattern in Gotham when Commissioner Loeb's corruption let mob bosses slip through legal loopholes. But Batman hadn't waited for permission. While the Jedi deliberated, he'd already infiltrated the primary weapons cache, a decommissioned industrial facility on sublevel 40, 4,000 levels below the Senate district. The location was strategically brilliant, deep enough to avoid casual detection, accessible enough for large shipments, surrounded by forgotten infrastructure that provided countless escape routes. Whoever planned this operation understood urban warfare and asymmetric tactics. Batman crouched in the facility's ventilation system, observing through floor grates. 50 armed mercenaries, Trandashans, humans, a few Weequay, guarded crates of thermal detonators, arranged in a pattern that made his tactical mind recoil. This wasn't a storage facility. It was a bomb, carefully configured, to trigger a chain reaction that would collapse the structural supports of multiple city levels. Casualties would number in the millions. The Jedi have discovered our operation, a voice said, the human coordinator. Batman recognized from intercepted communications. Praji's been arrested. Count Dooku orders immediate activation. Now, another mercenary protested. We haven't reached the Senate district yet. Now, the Count believes the detonation will demonstrate Separatist reach and cripple Republic morale. Set the charges for 6 hours. That gives us time to evacuate and establish alibis. 6 hours. Batman's gauntlet computer calculated blast radius, structural integrity, evacuation times. Even with immediate action, Republic forces couldn't evacuate the affected levels in time. Coruscant security force was stretched across multiple investigations. The Jedi were coordinating with Senate committees. No one was focused on this location because no one except Batman knew it existed. He could signal Anakin. The young Jedi could bring reinforcements, use the Force to disable the detonators, save millions through mystical intervention. But that assumed the Force worked on technological devices, assumed the mercenaries wouldn't detonate immediately when Jedi arrived, assumed bureaucratic approval wouldn't delay response. Batman had learned in Gotham that sometimes you couldn't wait for backup. Sometimes justice required one person willing to stand between innocence and annihilation, regardless of the cost. He dropped through the ventilation grate in controlled silence, landing among the crates. The mercenaries registered his presence. Instantly, combat-trained professionals, who opened fire without hesitation. Blaster bolts seared the air, one catching his cape and burning through the advanced fibers. Batman rolled behind cover, mind-calculating trajectories and timing. 50 opponents, military-grade weapons, confined space, explosives that couldn't be damaged without triggering early detonation. Acceptable odds. Batman deployed smoke pellets across multiple vectors, creating a fog that thermal imaging couldn't fully penetrate. His cowl's sophisticated sensors painted the battlefield in composite. Overlay, electromagnetic signatures, heat patterns, motion detection, audio triangulation. He moved through the smoke like a hunting predator, each strike calibrated for maximum efficiency. A Trandashan mercenary loomed from the haze. Batman's fist, reinforced with armor plating, shattered the alien's jaw. He spun, batarang disabling another opponent's blaster, followed with a nerve strike that dropped a third. The mercenaries attempted coordinated fire patterns, But Batman had studied their tactics for 3 days. He knew their training, their reflexes, their predictable responses to chaos. "It's the Batman," someone shouted. "Concentrate fire." An explosive batarang detonated their primary lighting system. Darkness swallowed the facility. The mercenaries had night vision equipment, but Batman had something better: absolute familiarity with operating in shadow, honed through years of Gotham's darkest corners. He was already moving before their systems adjusted, a wraith dispensing calculated violence. But numbers mattered. Even Batman's skills had limits. A blaster bolt caught his shoulder, ablative armor dissipating most of the energy but leaving a seared crater. Another grazed his thigh. He stumbled, and 3 mercenaries converged with vibroblades drawn. Then blue light erupted through the darkness. Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber hummed as it deflected blaster fire, the young Jedi appearing through the smoke with raw force power radiating from his presence. "I told you, Jedi don't abandon their allies." Batman wanted to argue that he'd specifically not requested backup, that Anakin's presence complicated tactical parameters. But survival overrode pride. They fought in unconscious coordination, Batman's pragmatic brutality complementing Anakin's force-enhanced combat, detective's precision working alongside warrior's instinct. The mercenaries fell rapidly against combined assault. Within minutes, the facility was secured. 50 unconscious bodies scattered among the weapons crates. "The detonators," Batman said, already moving toward the primary device. "They're configured for chain reaction. Disabling one might trigger the others." Anakin studied the setup, his force sensitivity apparently providing insights. Batman's technological sensors couldn't. "The connections are electromagnetic. If I can use the force to disrupt the field, that's mystical guesswork. I need certainty." Batman accessed the detonator's control system, his gauntlet computer interfacing with the Separatist technology. The encryption was sophisticated but followed logical patterns. Every system had vulnerabilities. You just needed patience and expertise to find them. "They'll be back," Anakin warned, standing guard. "Once they realize we've taken the facility, then we have limited time." Batman's fingers moved across the holographic interface with surgeon's precision, code scrolling, pathways analyzed, fail-safes identified and circumvented. This was detective work at its purest, solving a puzzle where failure meant millions of deaths. 5 minutes passed. 10. Sweat collected beneath Batman's cowl, but his hands remained steady. Anakin deflected 2 attempted counterattacks. His lightsaber work impressive for someone so young. The Jedi had raw talent but lacked tactical discipline. Too aggressive. Too willing to engage when withdrawal would be strategic. "Got it," Batman said finally. The detonator's countdown froze, then reset to inactive status. He uploaded evidence of the entire network to his suit's computer, coordinates, personnel files, financial records, communications. Everything needed to dismantle Separatist operations across Coruscant's lower levels. "We should return to the temple," Anakin said. "The Council needs to see this evidence." "No." Batman stood, cape settling around his armored frame. "The Council will process this through proper channels. Senate committees, intelligence reviews, bureaucratic oversight. By the time they act, Dooku's network will have rebuilt." "Then what do you suggest?" Batman's white lenses fixed on the young Jedi. "I suggest you learn that sometimes the right thing isn't the legal thing. That sometimes justice requires operating outside systems designed to protect the powerful. That's not the Jedi way. The Jedi way is failing." Batman's voice carried absolute conviction. "Your order has fought this war for 3 years without achieving victory. You follow rules while your enemies exploit every advantage. You meditate on proper action while innocents die. Maybe it's time to question whether your way is actually working." Anakin's expression showed conflict, the same internal struggle Batman had observed throughout their partnership. The young Jedi wanted to argue, defend his order's philosophy, but he'd also seen Batman's methods save millions of lives through actions the Council would never approve. "What happened to you?" Anakin asked quietly. "What made you become this?" Batman was silent for a long moment. Memory flashing unbidden, a dark alley, gunshots, his parents' bodies on cold pavement. The fundamental understanding that the world was cruel and only will could oppose that cruelty. "I learned that the universe doesn't care about fairness, Batman said finally. That evil exists, banal and systematic, and philosophy alone won't stop it. Someone has to stand in the darkness and refuse to blink. Not because they're special or chosen or mystically empowered, but because they're willing to bear the cost that others can't. Before Anakin could respond, Batman's sensors detected incoming signatures. Republic gunships, descending toward their location with Jedi reinforcements aboard. The Council had finally mobilized. They'll want answers, Anakin said. About how we found this location, how we secured it without authorization. Tell them the truth. Batman activated his grapnel, aimed toward the facility's upper access tunnels. Tell them a vigilante from another galaxy did what they couldn't. Protected the innocent without waiting for permission. Where are you going? To finish securing Praji's network. There are still cells operating across 15 lower levels. Your council can have the evidence. After I've extracted every operational detail, Batman paused, something almost resembling respect in his tone. You're a skilled warrior, Skywalker, but you're trapped between who your order wants you to be and who you actually are. Eventually, you'll have to choose. He disappeared into the shadows before Anakin could reply. Cape vanishing into ventilation shafts as Republic forces landed. The Jedi would secure the facility, claim credit for averting disaster, file reports that sanitized Batman's involvement into something palatable for official records. But in Coruscant's lower levels, criminals and separatist agents were learning a new truth. The galaxy contained forces beyond the Jedi and Sith, beyond light and dark side philosophies. They were learning that determination and skill, properly applied, could rival mystical power. They were learning to fear the shadows. Over the following weeks, Batman systematically dismantled Dooku's Coruscant network. 50 operations neutralized, 300 arrests, weapons caches seized across 12 levels. He worked alone, rejecting Jedi oversight and Republic jurisdiction, operating by principles developed in Gotham's streets: swift justice, tactical precision, absolute commitment to protecting innocence. The Jedi Council remained divided on his presence. Master Windu advocated for his arrest, citing dangerous precedent of vigilante action. Master Yoda counseled patience, sensing potential in Batman's unique perspective. Others debated whether someone without force sensitivity could truly understand justice. In a galaxy governed by mystical energy, Batman ignored their debates. He'd spent 15 years ignoring similar arguments from heroes who questioned his methods. The Justice League had eventually accepted that some warriors operated outside conventional heroism, that darkness could serve light without being corrupted by it. Coruscant was learning the same lesson. On his final night before departing, his Batwing finally repaired through salvaged Republic technology and his own engineering genius, Batman stood atop the Jedi Temple's highest spire. The city stretched endlessly in all directions. 5,000 levels of civilization and corruption, hope and suffering. It reminded him of Gotham, but on a scale that dwarfed even Earth's darkest metropolis. I knew I'd find you here. Anakin's voice came from behind. The young Jedi approached carefully, as if uncertain of his welcome. The Council wants to speak with you before you leave. They are grateful. Even Master Windu admitted your methods produced results. I don't need gratitude, Batman said. I need to know that when I leave, someone will continue protecting the people your Jedi ignore. We don't ignore. You do. Batman turned, white lenses reflecting Coruscant's artificial lights. You fight a war in space while crime thrives below. You sense suffering through the Force but lack resources to address it. You're spread across the galaxy trying to be everything to everyone, and you're failing at all of it. Anakin's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. So what would you do? If you were a Jedi? I'd accept that I can't save everyone, Batman replied. I'd focus resources on what actually works. I'd stop pretending that mystical philosophy solves practical problems. And I'd remember that the people you're protecting aren't abstractions. They're individuals with names, lives, families. Every death you could have prevented is a failure, regardless of how much you meditated on proper response. The young Jedi was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried an edge of desperate curiosity. Do you ever wonder if you've become what you fight? If using fear and darkness makes you no different than the criminals you stop? Batman had heard that question 1,000 times, from Alfred, from Superman, from his own conscience during Gotham's darkest nights. Every day, but I know the difference. I stop when the criminal is down. I never kill. I protect innocence rather than serve my own interests. The line between justice and vengeance is thin, but it exists. As long as I remember where it is, I'm still on the right side. And if you forget, then I trust someone will stop me. The same way I've stopped others who crossed that line. Batman activated his grapnel, preparing to descend. You have potential, Skywalker. You question authority, trust your instincts, care deeply about protecting people. But you're also impulsive, arrogant, too certain of your righteousness. Those qualities make you either a great hero or a terrible villain. The difference is whether you remember why you fight. He dropped from the spire before Anakin could respond, swinging through Coruscant's upper atmosphere toward the industrial district, where his Batwing waited. The Jedi would return to their war, their philosophy, their slow-burning failure to address systemic injustice. Batman would return to his own galaxy, his own endless crusade. But both would remember this collision of worldviews, the detective and the force wielder, pragmatism and mysticism, darkness serving light. The Batwing's engines hummed to life, modified hyperdrive engaging with technology. Batman barely understood, but had managed to reverse engineer, through analysis of Republic systems, the dimensional rift that brought him here remained theoretical, replicating. It would require months of research he didn't have time for. But hyperspace offered possibilities, and Batman always found a way home. As Coruscant shrank in his view screen, Batman reflected on the galaxy he was leaving. The Clone Wars would continue, he knew. The Republic would fall. He detected too many signs of systemic corruption, too much manipulation in Chancellor Palpatine's political maneuvers. Anakin Skywalker would face choices that defined his future, and Batman suspected the young Jedi's passion would lead him down darker paths than philosophy could prevent. But in Coruscant's lower levels, criminals would remember the vigilante who needed no force to dispense justice. Separatist agents would report to Dooku about the human who couldn't be intimidated, couldn't be corrupted, couldn't be stopped. And perhaps a few Jedi would question whether their thousand-year-old methods were truly the only path to protecting the innocent. Batman's mission had never been to save galaxies. It was simpler and more impossible. Save the one person in front of you, then find the next person who needed saving. Repeat until you couldn't anymore. In Gotham, on Coruscant, or anywhere darkness threatened light. The hyperspace calculations completed, Batman engaged the drive, and the Batwing leapt into that strange dimension between stars, heading toward a rift that might, if his calculations proved correct, lead home. Behind him, the galaxy far, far away would never forget the dark night's shadow. And in the Force, a ripple persisted, proof that even without mystical power, one person's absolute dedication to justice could reshape destinies and challenge the fundamental nature of heroism itself.